At the time, I didn't understand why it was so much worse than it had been, but now that I've sat down and reflected on it, I know exactly sort of like where everything went wrong. So that's what I want to share with you guys today. So market season has finally returned. Honestly, I don't feel like I've had enough of a break from last year's market season. I feel like Christmas just happened. I feel like in the business world, that's just how it goes. Like, you don't really get a break. You get like a fake break where you get to be ill for 3 weeks and then just get back on the horse. But when I'm recording this, it's early February, and last weekend I had my first market of the year. And so I just wanted to share a little bit with you guys about how it went, what I've learned from that. Going back to the main purpose of this channel, I want to share with you sort of like my real-time journey in entrepreneurship, not give you like, when I finally reach my goals, I get to like do a review of how I went from 0k to 100k. I feel that what would be more valuable is actually showing the mistakes as they are happening in real time, or the successes as they happen in real time. And perhaps that can be something that you can apply to your own business as well. So I was surprised that there was a market in February actually, because February's early. Like, I feel like people are just recovering from being broke all of January, but you know, lo and behold, people showed up to shop, so who am I to turn them away? I'm gonna start with the financials because I feel like, first of all, that's all that people really care about. Then I'm gonna break down sort of what went well, what didn't go well, what I would do again, etc, etc. Overall, in terms of profit, so this was a day and a half's market, so 6 to 9 p.m. on Friday and then 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday. In sales, my total sales was £311. I don't know if that's a lot or a little for you. To give you an idea of how my products are priced, the pricing ranges between like £4 and £15 basically. So I can't remember how many sales exactly I made. I probably should have looked that up, but it was around 30 to 50 sales in total. I would say that I made. The table at this event cost £205. Again, I don't know if this is expensive or not for you, but that's how much it cost. Now, there are other costs, quite a few other costs that I have to take into consideration. This is not including costs of goods here, because the costs of goods actually came out of my initial investment in the company, so I tend not to calculate all of them when I do markets and things like that, because it's technically already paid off. Yeah, I know that I should, but for the purposes of today, I'm not going to. But anyway, with all other costs included, I spent this much, whatever it says here, and then this was sort of like my total take-home profit for the day, which is £19. So not very good. I was a little bit disappointed, well actually quite disappointed, because this market has been successful for me in the past. At the time, I didn't understand why it was so much worse than it had been, but now that I've sat down and reflected on it, I know exactly sort of like where everything went wrong. So that's what I want to share with you guys today. I always say that you should do lots of research and potentially even attend a market before you go, just to make sure that your target audience is going to be there and you can make sure that you're not going to lose a ton of money. This is actually a market that I've vended at before. I've vended at this market twice, but there are certain things about it that have changed. And I think those changes are the fundamental reason that I've lost money on this occasion. So the first thing that's changed is the location. So the market used to be in a location, it was in London, but it wasn't in central London. And for those of you who are not from the UK or have never been to London, that makes a huge difference, because in central London we have something called the congestion charge. The congestion charge is basically a fee that you pay for driving in central London. If you are selling goods at a market, you know, physical products, there's basically no way really, unless you're selling something really tiny that you can take on public transport, there's no way that you can get there without driving unless you live next door. Even public transport in London is very expensive, and I would have had to pay for 2 people to carry all of my stuff. So either way, it would have come down to at least £15 a day, £30 in total, just to vend at this market. Also in London, parking is incredibly expensive. I think it cost me around 30 quid to park for 2 days. And then petrol as well. I don't live in London, so I had to pay for petrol. It's another £30. So that's what all of the travel costs were. For comparison, like I said before, it was in London, but it was on the outskirts of London. It used to not take as long, it wasn't as far as drive, there was no congestion charge, and parking was free. Also, the fact that I was staying somewhere else overnight, because I didn't go back home between days, made me scramble a little bit, and I forgot things. Like, I forgot something that I used to give people samples, which really made me flustered on the second day, and I think contributed to me making fewer sales as well, because I was less effusive because I didn't have samples to give to people. Another major change that they've made is that they have more vendors than before. This is not something that I would have been able to look up beforehand, unlike the location. Obviously I can look that up beforehand and sort of make those cost calculations. But I would say before there were like 30 to 40 vendors, whereas now there's more like 50, which does make an impact in terms of visibility. The different location also meant the flow of traffic was very different, so it was more like open, like people could explore openly, as opposed to being led down one path and having to kind of basically pass everyone on their way. So even though it was busy, like they do advertise it really well, so you can see where your money is going. I would say in terms of the type of people who are there, they weren't necessarily my target audience. So this market, for context, is sort of like for Black businesses or Black owned African heritage, Caribbean heritage businesses. And the people who shop there obviously support those sorts of small business owners, but they don't necessarily support my business or my niche. They might not have been looking necessarily for my product, just in general to support those kind of business owners. So I would say in terms of target audience, in the past I've been able to get away with it. Like I said, the same number of people attending but fewer vendors. Therefore, if people only had £100 to spend, they were more likely to spend it on my products. But because there were so many vendors this time, it almost felt like there were too many. The prices were really, really varied as well of everyone's product. Not that there should be price control, but there's not a specific type of product that is sold there or a specific target audience that they're trying to attract. It's more just the promotion of Black owned businesses, as opposed to a market for people who like crafts or who like wellness or who like beauty or fashion or something like that. It's a very generalized market, and therefore you get a very generalized target audience. And so it's quite difficult to predict the type of people who are coming, what their interests are, how much budget they have, whether they're actually there to shop or just to browse or see their friends. There's lots of different variables. And so that kind of makes it more unpredictable. And I think that really contributed to the fewer sales that I made this time. I also only got 3 email signups this time. I think that's because I changed the system. For email signups, before it was like you had to write it by hand, and this time it was like scan a QR code. So I don't know whether I should go back or take both. And then the last thing about this market is a problem that's persistent in my opinion, and in other people's opinion too, I think, is that it's very, very loud. They have a DJ. The DJ is good, the music is good, but we're not a carnival. You know, the music is always loud. This time the venue was in a church, so it was echoing even more than it usually is. Like last time I was at this market, I've just remembered actually in the summer, I had tinnitus for like a week. Like I lost hearing in one of my ears for a week because it was just so loud. I used to be underground as well. I feel like when you go to product markets, there's such a risk of you damaging your health anyway. You know, you could get injured, or it's just really stressful and tiring, especially if you've been at work all day. And so anything that adds up to that, like the market being outside or the market being loud or being very busy, is only something that's going to contribute more to your being exhausted from doing that event. Because usually this market is 2 days as well. It's 2 full days, Saturday and Sunday. And I think that it being just 1.5 days is actually a big detriment. And again, something else that contributed to me not being able to make as many sales, because sometimes Sunday is my better day, but only having 3 hours on a Friday, I think was just, not good enough. So will I be going back to this market? Unless they change back to the original location, I don't think so. I can't afford to take that bigger hit into my profits. Like I think before my profits were like £600-700. Sorry, my revenue was £600-700, and then my profit would be like £400-500 because the costs of my travel and stay were not so high. But only making like 20 quid off of a market, considering all the time and preparation, like that's not factoring in like my own labor costs and things like that as well. Like you're essentially in the negatives. And although you might see repeat customers, you get to meet different entrepreneurs, you get new email signups and things like that, it's not good enough to sustain the business. So unfortunately for that market, I think I'm gonna have to write it off for the rest of this year, unless they change the venue back, unless they do something about the number of vendors. I think they've chosen this new venue because it can hold more vendors, but yeah, it's not working for me. So yeah, so I hope that analysis helps you guys out a little bit. If you're somebody who is thinking about attending product markets, selling your products in person, these are some of the takeaways. Remember to always factor in all of your costs. Remember to do research into things like location, target audience, how successful this market has been before. It's quite disheartening when the market itself is successful, but you are not successful. But remember that that doesn't have anything to do with you or your products. There could be so many factors that go into it, including target audience, the number of other vendors that are there, the amount of marketing that the market has put on for the event. You know, like, don't take it personally. It's not to do with you. It's just a lesson for next time, basically. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you found it useful, and I hope that there were some takeaways that you can use for your own business. If you have any tips for me or anyone else about finding good markets, especially if you're in the UK, I'd be really interested to hear from you about what exactly your process is. I think I have a pretty good process. I might share how I go about researching and like applying for markets in the future, and how I eliminate markets that I know are just definitely not going to be for me. But yeah, if you've got any tips or anything like that you want to share with us, please leave a comment down below and let us know. That's it for me for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.